This week on Motor Week, Chris Goffey gets all goggle-eyed. We eye up a pair of Bristols, and Rutherford rants about some of our two-wheeled friends.
The big car seems suddenly to have become public enemy number one. If you drive a gorgeous beast that's packed with power and just oozes torque, then the envious looks you would have once received have been replaced by glares from the Green Brigade. And let's face it, the amount of money you spend filling the tank on one of these gas guzzlers could support a small third world country for a year. No, the powers that be seem determined to drive us into little cars with less power than a lawnmower. And every manufacturer worth its salt has jumped onto the bandwagon. Nissan didn't jump on the bandwagon, they really started the whole ball rolling when they launched their small car, the Micra, in 1992. It was billed as a small car with a big car character. There was nothing else quite like it on the market, and it promptly waltzed off with a 1993 European Car of the Year award. Its lousy suspension forgiven because it looked so cute. But now cute is everywhere, and Nissan have decided that it's time for the Micra to have a revamp.
And all the tweaking seems to have worked. Micra 98 is much more fun to drive, but not as much fun as this version.
We've approached the range differently this time, and we're offering a much wider choice. There are three basic models, an entry-level model, the GX, which is a comfort model, and the SI, which is a sporty model. Those three basic ones, you can then add various different packs of options. So you really can tailor the car to pretty much any way you want, including colour. There are 10 colours to choose from, and you can have any one of those 10 colours on any of the models in the range.
Decisions. Now I have to choose for which of the three optional packs to go for. Should it be sporty with beefy bumpers and alloy wheels? Or maybe I'm more of a city girl. Maybe power steering and remote central locking is me. And once you've decided whether you're going to go for sporty or for comfort, it's the engine. The 1 litre or maybe the 1.3. Next you need to decide if you want to zoom around in a manual or Nissan's version of the automatic, continually variable transmission, which for the first time in a car in its class can now be used in conjunction with ABS. It's all very well Nissan giving us absolutely heaps of choice, but if they're going to turn the Micra into more than just a cute little thing that appeals to women with young children or pensioners, then they're going to have to turn it into rather more of a driver's car.
We've mainly concentrated on the perception. The actual ride of the car is very good, but people's perception, because the eye level is very high, we had to change that perception. And there's little things like changing the thickness of the steering wheel. That gives a person a perception of better rigidity. We've changed the steering bushes slightly, we've changed the power steering valving to give this better feel, and we've actually used the experience from the Primera, which was well received by the press and the public, to actually apply the same technology to the Micra.
So would you say it's more of a driver's car this time around?
We've kept the car as fun, but more, as you say, as a driver's car, more fun. In fact, you can drive the car very quickly, but it just feels more fun than it was before. But still we retain the strengths of the Micra, such as easy to park, manoeuvrability, and it's for town use, good visibility, etc. So retain those, but enhanced the other sort of more fun elements. I started working on the original Micra in 1998. Then we introduced it in 1992. We got Car of the Year. I was very, very proud then. And then from then on I became the European Principal Project Director, and I've now created this car in a more European mould to suit the European mind and the European taste.
It must feel like your baby winning the Beautiful Baby competition. Was it a bit like that when you got Car of the Year award?
Oh yes, I was over the moon. I think it was absolutely fantastic. It's the first time any Japanese brand had got European Car of the Year. And then we got the Japanese Car of the Year. It's the first time any car in the world has got both awards at the same time.
Wonderful.
from. In a way, when you've been so closely involved in a project, does it become difficult to look at the things that need improving on it because you're so attached to it? And obviously, you know, the Micra in the past had many great attributes, but things like ride and handling did let it down. Is that difficult to face up to things like that?
Maybe initially, but after being in the industry a long time, you realise that the competition moves on, customer requirements move on. So to keep competitive, you have to really sort of criticise your own work. You have to be really self-critical and say, what can we introduce? What can we improve? Then we look at a lot of competitors and we do a lot of market research and say, well, hey, the market is moving. And in the small car market, it's moving very, very quickly. One of the first things we noticed when we launched the car is that a lot of people thought the car was too cute. Now, a lot of females like that, but a lot of the younger men didn't. So we had to change the looks, especially the front of the car, the face of the car, the character of the car. That was one thing. The other one which came across from really early days is that the interior looks cheap. Actually, the plastics and the materials are very expensive, good quality materials, but it actually looks cheap. So we had to change the perception of the quality. And then we noticed from the competitors again that the actual refinement, like noise levels and ride, was also improving, so that's another key area we had to tackle.
We felt we didn't need to change it completely. I think if you look at many other cars in the market, in some way they've caught up. This round, quite friendly shape is a very popular thing. What we wanted to do was really broaden the appeal of it. It sold very well to women, particularly those with children, and to older people. Generally, men did not warm to it. They felt it looked cute. And what we wanted to do was just make the car look a bit more assertive to broaden the appeal for it.
Yeah, you say that you didn't want to change it too much and that other people have caught up with you. Micra, when it first came out, was sort of revolutionary. It was very, very different. Yes. Do you not feel that maybe you should have tried to raise the stakes again this time?
No, I think small cars have a long life and they all last about 10 years, and that's very much an industry norm. So for us it was adapting and improving. There was never any question sort of starting again. I don't think we needed to. It's got a character. We wanted to build on it and really just broaden the appeal for the car.
Well, there are some significant changes to the outside of the car, I think particularly at the front. You can see there's a new bonnet and a new grille. And new headlamps that give it a much more assertive look on the road. We wanted to give it a bit more road presence. Also along the side there are some differences with the trims and at the rear as well. The idea is not to change it radically because the Micra has a very strong identity and we need to keep that. We just want to improve it a little bit, give it more road presence. But the big changes or bigger changes are on the inside where there's a completely redesigned interior, new dash, new seats and new materials that we think gives the car a real sort of big car feel for a Super Mini. So we think people are going to really see the difference and be appreciative of them.
In terms of how we're going to build on the sales success, not only will that come through the product in terms of the improved proposition that Micra now is. The car has improved specification levels across the range. The car now has a customer choice option lineup where customers can specify anything up to 7 independent options to suit their individual needs and tastes from that. So the car is a lot more sophisticated in terms of its customer appeal and its customer choice. Against the competition, then, as you might know at this moment in time, the UK market isn't a particularly aggressive pricing arena. There's not many manufacturers are actually increasing the prices of their cars to any significant degree at this moment in time. So naturally, we've had to be very conscious of what's going on within the competitive environment and against the principal competition that we see for this car, which is mainly cars like obviously Fiesta, Corsa, Renault Clio, Peugeot 106, then we believe that the car is very competitive from both a visual point of view and also from a value-adjusted specification point of view.
I've been the project engineer working on the programme right from the initial product planning through to the execution with Nissan Europe, NM UK, the manufacturing plant and the design company at Cranfield.
Have you, as a centre, had really quite a free hand in the design of this? Because it has been a car design for Europe. Or have you been overseen a great deal by Japan?
We very much feel it is the Micra for Europe, following the car of the year in Europe, and with the styling, the feel is for the European taste. We've listened to the market, how they received the initial car. The car is already very popular, people already like it, but we wanted when you look in your rear view mirror, the car behind you has a bit more of an on-the-road feel to it. You think, yeah, that's the Micra. It's a more, not necessarily aggressive, but just a stronger presence, a greater character.
Like their competitors, Nissan may have made the new Micra evolutionary rather than revolutionary, but it is a much better car than the last model, and we'll be bringing you a full test on it next month.
I've got some prick here on this motorbike who's trying to squeeze past. Look, can you believe how close this guy is? Look, this is what I love, motorcyclists. Talk about on my tail. I'm in a contraflow at the moment. I'm driving very, very close to the car in front, as close as I possibly can. And we've got a biker behind us on a Suzuki who's so close to my tail it's untrue. If I was to touch my lights, and of course, there he goes. If I was to touch my brakes for 1 minute, for 1 nanosecond, he would have gone straight in behind me. We're on a 50-mile-an-hour road. He's now disappeared into the distance at 75 miles an hour. I'm doing 50 and he's just vanished. He's overtaking on the inside, undertaking if you like. The only good news is he's about to go through a speed camera. I know that, I don't think he knows that. But you know, when I see these bikers telling us motorists what we do wrong, about how we don't keep our eyes open for them often enough, I would just like to remind the bikers that if you do want to sit on my bumper or any other car's bumper, and that car just happens to dab its brakes for an unforeseen emergency, you're dead meat, and you're going to come off worse than us.
After the break, Chris Goffey and Howard Stableford with a couple of cars that are a little bit different on Motor Week.
It's a sight to make the angels weep. Broken down English thoroughbreds. But if you truly believe in the afterlife, then there might be a future for these fallen beauties in reincarnation. Now, I've been writing about cars and presenting them on television for more years than I care to remember, and it's sometimes difficult to work up enthusiasm when you think you've seen it all before. But this is one story where I have no problems at all, because this is the Ronart. Ronart Cars goes back to the mid-80s when Arthur Wolstenholme built the first W152. Since then, he's never looked back. Fearsome machine. So, Arthur, tell me, how did Ronart start?
I was very interested in the Grand Prix cars of the 1950s, and to me that era of the front engine cars was the one I was looking towards creating.
And so you just went off and built yourself a motor car?
Yes, I studied some books on a lot of the engineering aspects, and just set about designing the car that I really wanted.
And was it right from the word go?
I think the style and the engineering aspects, yes, it was. I was very pleased with the prototype car, how it ran and how it performed.
And you've still got that prototype?
Yes, indeed, yes. I've been driving it for the last 12 years, and I've reached something like 80,000 miles in it. It's been very satisfying, and it's been excellent motoring.
You can buy it in kit form?
No, the car's available in component form for the enthusiast to build, but it's also available built by the factory to customer specification.
How much would a fully built-up car cost if you bought it from the works?
In kit form, the customer could put one on the road. If he had his donor car, which is an XJ6, he could actually get the car on the road for £12,000.
So how much would a rough old donor XJ cost you?
Oh, anything from £100 to £150 for one that's non-running, that we could use most of the mechanics out of.
If you build the car, and sell it to a customer, how much does it cost then?
Well, for a high specification car that we would build, it costs from £24,000 upwards.
It all looks terribly solid, but I mean, if you were, it's a very high-powered car. If you were in an accident, what about the safety side of it?
Yes, we have many safety features. The car has been extensively tested, and in fact, the car will be TUV approved. And to do that, we've had to have seatbelt testing to ministry standards, and it is a very safe car.
Now, this one's fitted with the V12. I mean, it must be extraordinary. These rear wheels must spend all their time spinning, don't they?
Well, it has been known to spin the wheels, certainly at quite an excessive speed, yes.
Well, there's only one way to find out. Let's go and drive it. Well, if you're going to drive something like this, you might as well look the part. First impression is of build quality. The car feels totally unlike a lashed together kit car. It's big and solid, all the controls feel like a Jaguar's should, and the steering is light and free from kickback. And despite the massive weight of that V12 engine, it's actually quite nicely balanced with 50-50 weight distribution. I wasn't going to push that hard in a car that a customer has taken a year to build, but a lot of Ronarts equip themselves well on the track in sprints and hill climbs, and if it was mine, that's where I'd be headed. I've driven some mad creations in my time, but this is incredible. And the reason it's such an amazing car, because under the bonnet here, 5.3 litres of Jaguar V12, they put 6 twin-choke Weber carburettors on it. It's producing about, I don't know, let's say 350 brake horsepower, and you won't be too far wrong. 0 to 60 under 5 seconds, and maximum speed, well, how brave are you, and how well can you withstand the blue bottles on your teeth? They've had one up to 180 miles an hour, but that would take a substantially braver man than me. But in a car weighing less than a ton, you can see why this is serious supercar performance. Well, it's not often I finish a car test saying I really want one, but I have to confess I'm seriously impressed by the Ronart. Let's think, a second-hand old XJ6 for 250 quid, couple of spanners, pair of pliers, kit from Ronart. Yeah, I could do that.
You don't see Bristol Cars launch a new model very often. In fact, it's about as common as a Tottenham Hotspur hat-trick. But on the 14th of January, they launched this, the Blenheim 2, and Motor Week went along. The visual differences to the original Blenheim aren't immediately obvious to most, but the nose and rear wings have been cleaned up to make for a sleeker shape. The handcrafted aluminium bodywork does retain some Bristol hallmarks, such as the compartments behind the front wheel arches, which contain the spare wheel, battery and fuses. Underneath, the separate chassis is retained, but with revisions to the components attached. The wheels are further apart, for instance, to improve handling, and there are new hand-built suspension dampers which are individually adjustable. Other modifications reduce the turning circle by nearly 2 feet. The interior retains the gentleman's club ambience that you'd expect, but revised front seats improve space and comfort. The effect is enhanced by extra interior and under-bonnet soundproofing. Bristols, like Bentleys, tend to be bought by the well-heeled, who'd rather drive themselves than be chauffeured around, so most of the mods have been aimed at the driver. Sorry, Jeeves. And Bristols are narrower than most luxury competitors, so there's less chance of an expensive scrape as you thread through that traffic. Just as well, really, because the car isn't cheap, at about £120,000 on the road. We caught up with Tony Crook, formerly a racing driver, before becoming managing director of Bristol Cars in 1973, and asked him about the new car.
The car really is a full four-seater, 4 people can sit in it. It's very elusive with a massive central chassis that gives terrific road holding and low centre of gravity. The interior of the car is quite different. In fact, it's really a new car. Very few panels are left from Blenheim 1.
So, there you have it, the new Bristol Blenheim. Now, where did I leave those keys? Oi, Jeeves! I say, Jeeves! Come back!
Next week, Chris Goffey reports on the big Drive Everything Day, organised by the motor manufacturers. And Richard Hammond finds out if Nicole's new Clio will be approved of by Papa. And then the week after, the whole of Motor Week salutes Land Rover for their 50th anniversary.
1998 marks a very special year in the history of the British motor industry because it's the 50th anniversary of Land Rover, a unique British institution and a name that is literally known around the world. From those very early days in the 1940s when Rover Company was desperate for steel and the only way of getting it was to make a vehicle that would export readily, to the present day where the latest £50,000 Range Rover is a major hit in the United States, Land Rover has been a British success story.